In this total jungle carry guide, I'm going to show you step by step how you can become a complete jungler to carry any sort of game stage you might find yourself in. And even though you might make mistakes, you can still find those windows of opportunity to get yourself juiced if your team overcommits and ints and dies, which they will, and you have to be the solo carry potential on your team. And we will start off with the first clears, and of course the ultimate goal is to be strong early. So all of the principles you learn, the bad habits that you fix, the mistakes that you correct, and the things that you know can be put into one package, essentially an absolute total principle guide with everything you need to know to smurf in whatever elo you're playing by applying all the jungle principles you've ever needed to know. If that happens, it's this game. And of course, the VIEGO's finishing his full clear, and the Lilia is finishing her first clear. Now remember, the goal is 100% to get your clear done and gank. You can also use the strategies I've been putting through lately where you can do your red side quadrant, invading into the bottom red side or the blue side if you feel you have that power. I do not advise doing those Raptor Gromp blue invades. It largely just sets you up for more high pressured scenarios where you get counted, and if it fails, you're playing on the back foot and you can't use all the stuff you know because you decided to do something with cheese. Fundamentals always win as the VIEGO goes for the mid lane gank, but Lilia finishes her full clear and says, haha, I'm gonna flash and get that kill instead. But I think at this point we're used to that kind of occurrence. Obviously you already have the scuttle crab, so you can follow your support back to the bottom lane to try get a gank off there as well before the Lilia resets and comes to the bottom side. For those of you who don't fully understand, remember, when you full clear in opposite directions, it's always going to be about your back timings. If I now can gank the bottom lane before the Lilia shows up, guess what? She's gonna be down here trying to get her Krugs and Raptors, and there's gonna be no gank in my bottom lane because I've just conducted that gank. You take away something from the enemy jungle. That's number 2. You absolutely must head over to Virkayu.gg. I have a free jungle improvement resource as well as a dedicated program where we have jungle video courses, jungle coaching VOD libraries, weekly free video content seen nowhere else, as well as Q&As and patch note rundowns, as well as a private jungle Discord. And if there's one thing I'm good at, it's making junglers reach their goals, as we saw with the record number of people hitting them at the end of season 13. If you want to climb faster than anyone you know, jungle diff every game you play, click the link below or head to Virkayu.gg. Always look to ruin their game plan while fusing in some lane impact. Now once you've gone back to base, if you got nothing on the bottom side or whatever side you ended up on, yes, you can go ahead and do your Krugs Raptors into the grubs, but you also know the enemy jungler is going to be pathing in this direction as well. So either skip the Krugs and go straight for the top lane gank if it's gankable, or do the Krugs and then the top lane gank like the VIEGO does here, and that allows you to keep your eyes up, looking out into the map to seeing what opportunities can I take away from the enemy jungler while giving myself as much gold as possible. And the next step here is, yes, in theory you've just ganked top lane, but your top laner died, and the most important thing is, look at your mid laner. Going back to base is not in a position to help you do the grubs. The sooner you recognize, and this step is vital, that the map is not giving you the objective, and the sooner you accept this, the sooner you actually win. You know why? Because you're gonna go ahead and do the Raptors, the bottom side, the bottom lane gank, the dragon, counter jungle her third respawn on the bottom side, all while she gets a few grubs. If you can now prevent her from hitting turrets through the right decision making, what good with the grubs? Obviously, if Lilia shows up bottom lane now and dies, go ahead, take the grubs. But in this particular case, you know she's pathing upside, so you know she's going to arrive and collapse in on you if you try and quench up those grubs, and you're not going to have top lane prior, mid lane prior, or jungle prior. You will die. And I know because I literally coached someone today on this and they did exactly that, and guess what happens? They died. And guess what? I also made a bad jungle habits video where I talked about this and everybody died. So let's try not to die, important step, and then just go do the Raptors and go down. Now because she's fully committed to doing those grubs and probably has other camps on the top side she needs to finish, you might have time here to go ahead and do the dragon. Check your bottom lane prio and ensure you do. If you don't, maybe you just gank bottom lane instead. But if bottom lane's ungankable and you can get a free dragon, go for it. Now the next step here is to remember the 80-20 rule. Make sure you only leave your dragon and rotate to the fight in the mid lane. Rotate to help your laners if you know for an 80% chance that you can most likely go ahead and get some kills or something good. If those scenarios look doomed, then don't rotate to them, finish the dragon and fall back. If the jungler shows top lane randomly, guess what? Counter jungle her bottom side. And as VIEGO shadows the mid lane here just in case something happens, an important thing to do as well while he goes to the red buff, remember, if you can ultimately make quick decisions and give certain things up and know what you can take, and you just do it quickly and swiftly, you're gonna end up in these positions where you can make multiple good decisions. Hey, I finished my grub, I could gank bottom lane, I could do the dragon, I could counter jungle, I could gank mid lane. And if you have bad jungle decision making in the early phases and you don't follow all of these steps, you're gonna end up in a position where you're thinking, damn, there's really nothing for me to do. I don't know what to do. So if you're one of those people that always ends up in spots where you are confused about the next pathing decision and you have nothing to do on the map, this is why. So ensure you rewatch the first 4 minutes of this video, once you're done, because it will help you really fix these issues in the long term. Now in these total carry guides, oftentimes it's a little quieter early early. Because your mid lane's losing, your support has no prior, your top lane's a rock, the enemy jungler just gets to farm and they're going to scale by farming. So you really have to start to force the issue if you want to take over games. And that's why it's so important to remember, even if you're a fisting, invading, ganking style jungler, even if you're a Lee Sin or Kha'Zix and things like that, it's okay to take phases in the game where you just look at the map and say, you know what, it ain't giving me anything. I'm just going to do a quick clear. I'm going to do another quick clear. I'm going to stay out a little bit longer, get the objective, and I'm going to go back to base, buy my maximum item, my first item, and ensure that I am juiced for that next grub fight. I am juiced for that next dragon fight. So if you're having to give up a lot of stuff, which I know a lot of you are in these losing games that you have to 1v9, then it's good to play like this, a little bit more reserved, but still high efficiency. So as we get into this next important play, remember thinking about 2 to 3 minutes in advance, 5 minutes in advance can really help you as a jungler if you don't have great plays to make. You just think, you know what, I'll hit those plays in the next phase. We collapse on the grubs, we see the Lilias on it, and here the most important thing is misdirected intent. Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and fight the grubs, fight the Lilia, yes, we're gonna contest. This forces rotations from everybody else, but if you have vision of them, you now can immediately turn to where you have a numbers advantage. You see the Tristana floating into the fight, turn into the 2v1. Now you got a 2v1 somewhere else, a 3v1 somewhere else, a 3v2 somewhere else. Have your body language, your positioning of character, your spells, your hovering, not give away what you want to do. Don't run across mid lane when vision and say, look, I'm doing grubs, guys. That's how you die. Don't run at people that you know you want to kill and have them run away. That doesn't help you. Maybe turn at someone else, but bait it out, and as soon as they collapse in on you, now you can collapse in on them. It's always about misdirecting how you want to pilot your champion, where your champion wants to go, and when you surprise them with that, boom, you get 3 kills plus grubs, and all of a sudden you're 4-0-0. It's a very important skill set to understand, and it's summarized as misdirected intent and numbers advantage. If you can learn those things, and you understand the early game, these steps alone will get you fed in almost every game you play. Trust me, it's in the League of Legends chapter in the Art of War. It's 100% accurate. Now what happens is the enemy jungler feels a little bit of that pressure. I need to go and lane gank in the bottom side. Viego's coming down here. It's true, but you have all the control. You can finish your quadrant, go back to base, buy a teammate. Don't know why you would, but you can. Itemization will change and evolve, so I'm not really covering it in this video. Just ensure you have the right items, obviously. And you can see that Lilia doesn't really know what to do. She's in that second group I mentioned earlier, whereas Viego has total control. He sees, oh look, bottom lane's pushing. I'll gank it. If Lilia was there to counter gank it, would it matter? No, because you're fed and you're strong and you understand your power and you use it powerfully and you have the most powerful responsibility, and Lilia really is stuck in very lateral monorail decision making that's easy for you to predict and easy for you to beat, because now the objective is up and you did the classical thing. Kill conversion ratio. Make sure when you kill laners, you kill champions, you are looking for objective takes. That can take the form of dragons, grubs, heralds, turret pushing. Get your turret damage, guys. Hit the turrets with the grubs pre-14. Get your plates. But one of the most important things about finishing off a total carry phase in the early game as we transition to the mid game will be ensuring that when the enemy jungler decides, listen, this Viego's popping off, I still scale. Yeah, he kind of does too, but I just need to get control of my camps. Why, as the oppressor, as the fed jungler, would you give them that breathing room? Go and take the top scuttle. Go and collapse on the fights you can collapse on. Go and invade their jungle. I cannot tell you how many games are lost by champions and players in this Viego's position where they go back to base, where they fall back to their red and take that instead, where they just try and sequence. So push a turret play, like I said, but they push it in the wrong time. I want to push those turrets when it makes good macro sense. I don't want to push a turret which still gives the enemy jungler free camps, gold experience, and counter jungling. That's not what this is about. What it's about is getting into their face and forcing them to always go to the side you know they're going to go on. For example, we now invaded the Lilia, we fall back to our red side. What it allowed us to do is to control this mid game, the 15-minute to 20-minute mark, and it's honestly the most important mark to pay attention. It allows you to place division with your support, with your controls, and you see the Lilia go to your side. You know she's going to your side anyway, but when you're giga strong with your itemization and you have a huge lead over everybody, you don't always need to go back for equal buys. For example, if this was an equal game, yes, I should go back to base because I can't actually kill the Lilia unless I spend my gold. But when I'm Viego and have such a big lead, I know I can still kill her when I see her going to my blue. So I'm gonna collapse on her and prevent her getting anything. Not even her camps, not a scuttle crab, not a dragon, not my blue buff. And if they do get those things, they'll die for it. Now, obviously, at this point, you're proud of yourself, you go back to base, you buy your next item. The metric for 1v9 carries, as I've said for the longest time, is if you can get 6,000 gold by 14 minutes, you're in a prime position to carry your games. If you have more, then the carry is even stronger. But the idea is at least have 2 items around now. You're really starting to build the third one. No one else is really close to you in terms of econ. And yes, you can go do your wolves and your scuttle crab and then path to the top side and dive the top laner. And then you can get the kill and do the thing I told you to do, which is hit the turrets. But at the same time, I would prefer in this case, maybe we float topside, actually contest this dive, do it, and fall back to the Herald. Your bottom side camps will all spawn together. That's a probably more efficient way of doing this, but the idea is you take some camps, you collapse on the dives, you push the turrets, you push the map further towards the nexus, and you fall back to those next objectives. Now the next phase of this total carry guide is being a little bit of a dick. That means when you go back to base again to get more itemization, you know the dragon is spawning. Yes, you could do the low elo thing that happens in bronze. You could do the low elo thing that happens in diamond, where you just kind of float around and try and get all the kills you can. You overcommit at one point because your team overcommitted and everybody dies. They get shut down to the Baron. Does that sound familiar to you? Good, it should, because I just watched your replays and I saw it. Now in this case, he does the dragon. He knows it's a free objective, third one already. We watch the bottom lane fight. We just keep our eyes on it. If there's an 80% chance we can go over there and get a triple kill and win the fight, we'll do it. Otherwise, we'll observe, we'll take records, we'll watch, and then when we can clean up and push waves, we'll do it. So when you want to carry like this, a lot of the time you'll end up at around this 20-minute marker, forced to actually go ahead and push side waves, to take the objective, watch your team die, and then when you see the map, go and make sure it goes forward. Don't fall back to your camps and relax. You are strong enough to handle most people 1v1, 2v1, 3v1. Activate the Herald and take another turret. You are the single thing that's forcing this team forward. Your whole team might be losing, your whole team might be neutral, they might play off of you, they might not be. As you're noticing, we don't really care about them or talk about them in these kinds of videos. It's on you. The most important thing is obviously to take the turret and then don't die for it. I see too often people take this advice and then they'll just keep pushing. It's like, well, everybody respawned. All you have to do is, look at the respawn timers and realize, wait, I should leave. And you should take the red buff and a scuttle crab and then go back to base. And now what do? We go topside because we've got all our topside camps. Our team is sieging on the top lane turret. They are because they died during the dragon fight. And that's where this play can cause you a lot of issues in certain elos because you watch them die because it was dumb for them to be there anyway. You got a turret, you got objectives, you got camps. You're really fed. But while you were doing that, they respawned and went back on the map and yet you went back to base. So the gap between you guys is huge. This is where you have to kind of hope your team don't int too much. But it's also why I said the 15 to 20 minute marker is the most important, because if you play that right, if you do all the steps I just gave you for that phase, this phase right here, as long as you get your ass out of base to your team and you're able to clean up the fight, help save the fight, be there when this goes down, you will 100% get an inhibitor. Most of your games, as long as you do this, you will get an inhibitor. And maybe if you have 6 grubs and good turret pushing, you might be able to win. But obviously, most of us have egos and we want to have fun, and we die. And we live in open nexus. But how many of us recently have lost with an open nexus? A lot of us. And me. Certainly wasn't my fault, 100% planned to do that. But what happens when that occurs is now you respawn and you're thinking, okay, look, I hope they don't, quickly snack the Baron because we all threw it away. That does happen sometimes, and often you will have to just relax and wait a little bit. That's the important defensive step. Just let it wear out, absorb the camps you can, maybe make a pick here and there. But the most important part about this phase, do not extend beyond vision line. Wait for your team, be together, move laterally with the vision line, and when the enemy overcommits, you kill one, and then you group up and you do the Baron. You bait the Baron, you do the Baron, it doesn't matter. If they show up, you turn and kill them. Why? From the earlier step, you have numbers advantage. Good teams won't show up, which means you can now group together and shove it down mid lane. If you do this properly, you will 100% win games faster. You will 100% become a better jungler, and you will 100% understand that our ability to end games before 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes is largely predicated on us as junglers, how strong we are at 14 minutes, and how we push the map in that mid-game phase. If you do these things, very frequently the team fights you do end up in, the ones you rotate to like he did here, will be the ones that work in your advantage because you're so damn fed. You've got the 6,000 by 14 at least, most likely you're at 9, 10, 12,000 gold, and no one can really touch you. And that's the whole point of jungling. It's the early phase domination, it's scaling gracefully, it's knowing when to give things up and playing around these right pressure point moments. And trust me, it works because all of this is just a summary of the steps I gave to this guy. It works in every MMR, and yeah, your champions might be subtly different, but fortunately we have a different framework for those ones, and you can choose your adventure on your screen now.